Hi, I'm Aaron Moss,
And I'm Donnetrice Allison.
and
And
this
this is
is Teaching
Teaching
While
While
Black. So, Donnie and I have years of experience working as faculty members in higher education, and in fact, specifically in predominantly white institutions. So, in talking about our experiences, we realized that we had a lot in common about our experiences teaching while Black.
Yeah, I just sent Aaron an article about recently, a few days ago, a professor who she lived in university housing at a university, and her brother was visiting her, and he was essentially racially profiled and followed home by the campus police. And she then had to prove, I am a professor at this university and I live in this house where she was in her living room dancing, and they still needed her identification to prove that she lived there. And these are the kind of stories that you don't hear a whole lot about, and certainly there's nothing on television that shows the kinds of things that professors go through teaching while Black.
So, we've decided to create a series about what it's like to be teachers of color in predominantly white institutions. So, Donnie, let me start by asking you a question. When was the first time you felt a sense of otherness in your work?
It was my first full-time teaching position, and I was all of about 24, 25 years old at a university in rural Virginia, Confederate flags everywhere. And it was about 3 weeks into the job. And the secretary of my department, I was in the communication department. I was the only Black professor in that department. And about 3 weeks in, the secretary said to me very casually and very, matter of factly, I'm so glad you don't have an attitude like I thought you were going to have.
Wow.
And in that moment, I have a decision to make. I have to decide, am I going to prove her right in this moment and show her my stereotypical Black woman attitude that she expected me to have? Or am I going to offer a teachable moment to her? And I decided to offer a teachable moment and said, what made you think that? And then she was stumped because she didn't know what to say. She was kind of like, well, I don't know. I just thought that you would. I didn't press too far. I kind of let her off the hook. I knew why. She probably knew why. She just didn't want to say. And it was in that moment that I realized this is going to be difficult, because my graduate experience was at an HBCU. So I didn't think about that. I didn't think about what it was going to be like leaving the bubble of an HBCU where pretty much all of my graduate professors were Black. And I suppose we talked about it a bit in the classroom, but that was a real moment that, okay, this is what this is going to be like.
Yeah. It's interesting how we find ourselves sometimes having to make that decision, right? Do I make this a teachable moment, or do I go with my inner feeling, right? And go, look,
Right.
that is so prejudicial. It's wrong, right?
Or show them the stereotype.
or show
Because
them
I'm
the
sure as a
stereotype,
Black
yeah.
man, they're expecting a certain kind of aggression or whatever it might be that
Right.
is expected of Black men from you. So
Right.
what was your experience like?
So the first experience I had in discovering my sense of otherness, that I am not like the other children in this story, actually started in graduate school when I was studying at Yale to get my master's. And I remember being excited. It was the first week of school, and I was going to be taking the bus. I know it's weird to say the bus because it's college, but because it's graduate school and everything's so spread apart. There was a bus system to take you from your graduate housing to whatever building you need to go to, academic building. So all the kids, the adults, people are getting on the bus, right? And you learn about systems and cultures by I don't know, taking, note on what everyone else is doing. So people got on the bus and just took their seat. And I thought, well, I have a student ID, but no one else is showing their ID, so I don't need it. So white students, Asian students, Latino students go. And when I go on the bus, I'm going, oh, where am I going to sit? And then the bus driver says, I need to see your ID. And I went, here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm still being asked to show my papers. Right? And that really stuck with me because I went, okay, I see I'm clearly not going to be treated like everyone else, right? There's an automatic assumption that I don't belong in this space because it's intended for people who don't look like me. And so because that stuck with me, I was in my first faculty meeting reminded of that moment in graduate school where everyone's expected to stand and present like the scholarship they've been working on over the summer and the research. And so everyone would stand and present. And I had recently been asked to serve on a really high-ranking committee. It was actually to search for the next provost of the university, which is a really big position. It's the leader of the faculty body. Some might say the number 2 position in the university. And so when I had stood and said, well, I was asked to serve on the provost search committee, and everyone smiled and said, oh, that's wonderful, that's great. And a faculty member said, well, be really careful about your time because people are always going to ask you to be on things because, you're a black male. And I went, okay, all right, that's interesting. And then so in between that meeting and the next meeting, people would come to me and say, well, what other committees are you serving on? What other activities are you doing? And you have to be really careful with your time because, obviously people are going to ask you because you're black.
Right.
And so at the next faculty meeting, I had some other things to present on, and I gave them an update on how the provost search committee was going. And I said, well, it's wonderful that they've asked me to serve on this committee because they're interested in the perspective of a faculty member who served in institutions where they were exposed to great leadership, and as a young faculty member, I'm glad to share my eyes and ears and experience so that I can lead the university forward into the future, And, I learned a lot from my faculty members at Yale. Yeah. So it was like, inside I wanted to go, what the hell?
Exactly.
I wanted to stunt, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
But I wouldn't say I made it a teachable moment. I don't know that I was as dignified to do that, but I certainly had that feeling once again of needing to show my papers to prove why I belonged in the room.
Right.
Yeah. Because I'm young, and yes, because I'm black, and I'm going to offer a different point of view, a different perspective, so that we don't just have that surface diversity of just difference of skin color, but difference of thought, right. Difference of vision on the direction or the future of this predominantly white institution. So right. That was the first moment as a faculty member that I had that sense of otherness, and it's never really gone away. It's continually resurfaced.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in this a little longer than you, and even with that, you still have those times when you feel like, did that person really just say that? Mm-hmm. And I'm not that 25-year-old girl who is just kind of shaking in her boots going into the classroom for the first time. Yeah. But still, there are still those moments where you are reminded that you're different and the expectation is different. This is a show you'd want to see.
Support us by following, liking, and subscribing to Teaching While Black TV.
Because Black content matters.